Shalom, Moray.
Slow, slow, Keith.
Shalom, Murray.
Slow, slow.
Sending love from New Jersey, Moray.
All right, appreciate you, appreciate you. All right, today's lesson is called Giving Counsel. All right, rules. All right, who online wants to read the rules? See, I guess their love is fleeting, really, really fleeting. They love you one minute, they hate you the next. Can someone online who loves me read the rules, please? Travis, hook me up.
Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay. Rules that will be used for all lessons. Please keep your mic muted except when asking or answering a question. Use the mic to speak, please. There is a feature on Zoom in the meeting room where you can raise your hand if you have a question or statement. Also, here is in the assembly, if you have a question or statement, raise your hand and speak into the mic for everyone to hear. All questions, answers, and statements must be on topic. You can only answer one time per question or statement. You have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. If you pass your 60-second window, your mic will be muted for you.
Bye, Caleb.
For those for those that are in the room, you also have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. There are mics that will be passed around that can be used to ask or answer those questions. All statements in the room must be limited to 20 seconds. The microphones can be used to share with others that may not hear you online. These rules are due to time and the recordings of the lessons. These are live teachings. We must give the moray enough time to complete the lesson. This will be mixed with discussions to help build one another. Please, 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 do not abuse the time.
Appreciate y'all. Somebody in the room, quickly. Quickly. Somebody fast. Hurry.
I want to take the time to explain that this lesson and the lessons thereafter are not based on any one individual, whether in this assembly, local or abroad. The lessons were not developed by myself alone. Yes, the Father has something, if all, not all, to do with them. If these lessons hit certain points that you feel or believe have sometimes something to do with you, all praise to the Father. Take that and knowledge and apply the solution to your life. Do not take anything personal and miss the message that is being given to help solidify your salvation. All right.
All right. Ta-da. All right, so like I said, the title of the lesson today is Giving Counsel. Last week we talked about receiving counsel. Today we'll talk a little bit about giving counsel. All right, so again, like the foundation scripture we've been using, I stole that from Morey Medad. He's been using the foundation scripture. So Mishlei, or Proverbs 8, 6 through 10. Listen, for I speak noble words, and the opening of my lips is about straightness. For my mouth speaks truth, and wrongness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are in righteousness, none of them twisted nor crooked. All of them plain to him who understands, and straight to those who find knowledge. Accept my discipline and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. So we remember that counsel has been given from this mindset, with Yahuwah at the forefront of the situation. All right, let's take a little bit deeper look into the verse. Straightness, a serene, level path, order, fairly, integrity, rectitude, truth, or agreement. It's also translated as uprightness, what conforms to a standard. What's our standard? The Torah, absolutely. Also translated as straightness, a linear direction that does not deviate nor is crooked. As you'll see there, none of my words are twisted nor crooked, all right? So that's the way we're coming from when we deliver the wisdom or the instruction or the counsel, right? Also, we want to be mindful to accept my discipline and not silver, knowledge rather than choice gold, discipline. Musar, discipline, a correction that is a minor punishment for teaching, which may include a rebuke. But again, the point of the discipline is to teach you something. And sometimes it may include a rebuke. Sometimes I got to tell you when you're wrong, because that's just the way life goes. It's also a warning. Speak words about a future event with the focus on changing a behavior or an action. What's the reason that we want to change that behavior or the action? I don't do true questions. Go ahead.
You may end up with a gun to your head.
That's pretty harsh, but yeah. So, a warning is usually given because you can see something in advance that the person may not see. So you want to get to them ahead of time before they have to end up with a gun to their head. All right. But that just ties into the example he gave earlier about the Mashiach, right? Nothing is in vain. Job 33:16 is an example where you can see that. Instruction is the teaching of a principle or an axiom for life. Several verses there as well. Remember, last week we were saying that, the wisdom or the counsel that you get may not be specific to that situation, but your overall mindset on how you look at things so that you can apply it when similar situations arise. So we want to look at the principle or just a way of living life, right? All right. So what are the best ways to deliver these straight words of warning, discipline, and instruction? So last week we spoke about receiving counsel. This week we focus on giving that counsel. All right. Something to consider when you're giving counsel. Proverbs 15:1 and 2. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise commends knowledge, but the mouth of fools pour out folly. Verse 4. A gentle tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the ruach. Marpe. Relating to health or a state lacking disease and lacking weakness. Restoration, formerly health, or a change of state as a figurative extension of the healing process. So when you're being gentle, you want to bring about healing, right? And there's several scriptures there that mention that usage. So the mission of the counseling session is to produce healing and restoration. You want to have them in a better state than before you gave them the counsel, right? Be mindful that the words we share are meant to build up, not to tear down. So you can point out the wrongness of their actions or the wrongness of the way they see things, but the intent is never to shame them or dilute their value as a person, right? So you don't want to go in there ready to bash somebody. It's not, oh, you're wrong, you're terrible. You want to point out the wrong, tell them why it's wrong, with the opportunity to heal them so they can move forward. But if you go in and just tell them how wrong they are and what a terrible person they are, are they going to feel encouraged that they can make the change? No, you got to encourage them that they are capable of handling this, right? All right, so when we're giving counsel, most times how you say something is just as important as what you say. Technically, the phrase is not what you say, but how you say it. However, that misses the mark slightly too, because what you say absolutely does matter. It's just as important as how you say it. You can't dilute the truth itself, but you can water down the delivery, right? But the truth is going to stand. So sometimes you can't avoid taking the medicine, right? But you can take the one that's cherry flavored. You're going to get the same medication, but it's easier to take. But if you don't get the medication for what you need, you're not going to solve the issue, right? So the truth itself, I can't dilute. I can only dilute the way that I bring it to you. I cannot put a Band-Aid on if they need a tourniquet. Absolutely. All right, so again, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And a gentle tongue is the tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the ruach. So keep in mind that the one bringing the counsel is responsible for the mood or the climate of the meeting. Their job is to keep it on track and also be able to table the conversation if it gets too far off track. They're in control of the flow of the meeting, all right? But don't confuse with dominating the conversation and doing all the talking. Sometimes counselors will have to do more listening than they do talking. And for that, we can look at James 1:19. Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear and slow to speak and slow to anger, right? Because I can't give you counsel if I'm not willing to hear you out. And it's also going to hinder your ability to receive the counsel if you don't feel heard. So I got to be mindful of that as I'm giving it to you, right? All right, so typically there's two types of counseling situations. There are more than two, but these are the ones you typically will see, right? So counseling that is requested, that's the one that we're a lot of common with, right? I need your opinion on this, I'm going through that, right? And then there's something that I've called see something, say something. Now, number one, someone comes seeking counseling, they're more likely to hear what you say than when you offer someone counseling that they need but didn't seek out. But number two is where you see there's a need for wisdom in a situation in someone's life, but they haven't sought out that help yet. They probably aren't ready to deal with the issue head on, face to face, but you can't let that be a reason to ignore the particular issue that you see. Sorry, I was parched. Leave me alone. All right, let's look at that. Ezekiel 3:18-21. If I say to the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him no warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way in order to save his life, that wicked person shall die for his iniquity, but his blood I will require at your hand. But if you warn the wicked, and he does not turn from his wickedness or from his wicked way, he shall die for his iniquity, but you will have delivered your soul. Again, if a righteous person turns from his righteousness and commits injustice, and I lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die. Because you have not warned him, he shall die for his sin, and his righteous deeds that he has done shall not be remembered, but his blood I will require at your hand. But if you warn the righteous person not to sin, and he does not sin, he shall surely live because he took warning, and you will have delivered your soul. So in this situation, when you see something coming down, and you know that it's not going to turn out good for them, it's your obligation, whether they're ready to receive the warning or not, to offer them some sort of warning. Now, you notice that in both cases, the person still died, right? Couldn't save them. But you still have the responsibility, whether they heed it or not, to offer the solution to the situation. Go ahead, Aki.
Right, there you go. So I'll let you drink some water now. Okay. So the other thing that we should recognize, though, is that when you do give them the warning, meaning you, the righteous person, is giving that person the warning, and let's just say they didn't take heed to it, but then they're going through something, you better not be trying to help them out of something if Yah is dealing with them because he used you to warn them and they didn't take heed. So now there's a punishment that's taking place. But if you're trying to ease that punishment for them, you might find out getting yourself burnt in the process.
Mm-hmm. I think Maury Kanan did a whole lesson on that. Sometimes you got to let people go through what they have to go through. They got to eat the fruit of their disobedience. Nothing you can do about it. Ezekiel 33:1-7. The word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, speak to the children of your people, and you shall say to them, when I bring the sword upon a land, and the people of the land shall take a man from their borders and shall make him their watchman. So what's the watchman's duty? To watch. That's part of the duty, right? That's part of the duty, but there's more. And he sees the sword coming upon the land and shall blow the shofar and shall warn the people. If I'm just watching, but I don't do anything, haven't done my job. Verse 3, he sees the sword coming upon the land. Mister, I didn't see nothing. All right, anyway, then whoever shall hear the voice of the shofar and shall not take warning, if the sword comes and takes him away, his blood is on his own head. Again, same instance. You can't save them. They didn't take the warning. They got to shed their blood. It is what it is. You can't save them. He heard the voice of the shofar, but he did not take warning. His blood is on you. Oh, wait. His blood is on himself, right? Let the blood be on them. Don't try to save them after you've warned them, right? But he who takes warning shall deliver his being. This is where we have to be mindful in See something, say something. If the watchman sees the sword coming, and shall not blow the shofar, and the people shall not be warned, and the sword comes and takes any being among them, he has taken away his crookedness, and his blood I require at the watchman's hand. Because he didn't do his job. He can't be up and be like, they're not going to listen to me if I blow the shofar. They're not really paying attention. It's not his job, right? He's going above and beyond. Just do what you're supposed to do. He gives you the warning. It's your job to share it. You see destruction on their way, you got to warn them, right? It's what you're obligated to do. Hey, if they don't like the messenger, whose blood is that on? That's on their blood, right? You got to do what you were obligated to do. All right, so you have to give the warning whether they're ready to receive it or not. But you just might have to go about it in a different way, right? So sometimes you can give an informal warning as they get to a place where they can truly hear counsel, right? So you got a warning and the counsel, right? You may not be ready for a full-blown sit down, let's discuss all the details. But I'm obligated to tell you that something is happening to you, right? I can't just let you float out there all by yourself. So, stop it. All right, you can drop a jewel here and there, right? Yep. Nothing formal, no admonition, just a casual conversation, right? And then as time goes by, they might begin to let their guard down a little bit and begin to seek wisdom from you because they've been watching you and hearing you over time, right? Often parables, right? Just a little jewel here and there. But now you have their ear, and then now you can begin direct counsel when they're in a place to receive it. But remember that healing is a process. It's a process, right? All right, so here's an example of just some soft wisdom, right? So say you know somebody, you know they are messing up their money every time they get it, right? You may not always pull them to the side, right? But when you're in a group, you might just pull out a little wisdom just for them to hear it, right? It says, hey, man, I can be so impulsive with my money sometimes. I gave myself a rule that I can't spend any money that first weekend I get paid. And now I'm not broke before payday anymore. But it took a while to get used to, but now it's second nature. Or you can say, hey, I take my gas money out in cash right off the top. That way I can just pull a 20 from the gas glove box whenever I get to have a tank. And when that stack gets low, I know I got to put it in park for a couple days. But again, you're just doing it real informally. Also notice how you're putting yourself in a similar situation. I don't have this mastered yet, right? I'm still working on it. You didn't come to them like you got it all figured out and you're coming from an area where you're superior to them. You're just showing where it relates. But again, it didn't take this full-blown out session. You were just able to give them a warning that, hey, we all know that you're kind of messing off your money here. Here's a little way to stop that until they can get down and come up with a plan and budgeting and a full strategy session, right? But that doesn't mean you just let them out there because, they're not going to listen to me. I'm going to just let them keep blowing their money. You still can say something to them, right? You got to give them a little bit of warning. That's good for you. All right. So I've been using the caution tape for the last couple of weeks, so I kept it again this week. Something to be mindful of, though. Be careful when it comes to the see something, say something. Note that not everything you see requires you to say something. When you're giving counsel, don't confuse wise counsel with simply having an opinion. All right, so before you decide to say something, check yourself first. Ask yourself, does the situation actually require my input? A difference in opinion is not the same as right from wrong, right? People are allowed to have a different opinion from you as long as that opinion doesn't violate Torah. Because who's the ultimate judge of right from wrong? Torah, right? The Most High. So they may do something different from you, but that doesn't mean they're doing something wrong, right? Sometimes it's better to seek counsel before you give it. Run it past another counselor first. For example, hey, Aki, XYZ kind of rubbed me the wrong way when I saw it or when I heard it. Am I tripping or did you feel that wasn't quite right too? A couple responses you might get. They might look at you and be like, nah, you tripping. It wasn't that bad. You tripping. You actually are tripping. It wasn't that bad. Or they might say simply, hey, it was off a little bit, but I already spoke to them about it. But in both responses, you can see that it wasn't necessary for you to get involved. So don't get involved. When you know that it's not really for you to jump in on, you got to be fine doing that. It could be your area of expertise, but it may not be your turn to give the counsel. You don't have to jump in every single time, right? Especially when you notice the other part, I already spoke to them about it. Nobody wants to be bashed for something they're doing wrong over and over again. Then Maury told me this Ock told me that, this person told me that, and they're all harping on the same thing. Again, that person's going to not feel good about themselves anymore, and they're going to be so stuck on that versus the remedy to the situation. So now your counsel's been wasted, right? We need to build them back up. Here's an example of just your opinion just not having the weight you think it does. Job 38, 2 through 18. Who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now gird up your loins like a man, and I ask you, and you answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if you have understanding. Who set its measurements if you know? Or who stretched the line upon it? Upon where its foundation sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of Elohim shouted for joy. Or who enclosed the sea with doors when it burst forth and came from the womb? When I made the clouds his garment and thick darkness his swaddling band, and assigned it from my law, set bars and doors, and said, this far you have come, but no further, and here your proud waves stop. Have you ever commanded the morning and caused the dawn to know its place? Take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wrong be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under a seal, and they stand out like a garment. And their light is withheld from the wrong, and their arm lifted up is broken. Have you come to the sources of the sea? Or have you walked about in the recess of the deep? Were the gates of death revealed to you? Or have you seen the gates of the shadow of death? Have you understood the breadth of the earth? Declare it if you know it all. We don't know it all because we are not Yahuwah, right? We never want to give counsel from a place of pride or arrogance. Whatever wisdom we do have, it came from Yahuwah. It is not our own wisdom. So we can't act like we know everything and we're just the brightest bulb in the bunch, right? We're just a vessel that he uses to give wisdom to someone else. The wisdom's not coming from us. It's coming through us. And if we misuse this and we abuse it, he's going to stop using you. He's going to shut you down for a season, right? It's not necessary. All right. I do have to share this story. I found myself in a situation where my opinion really didn't matter. And Maury Yeshurun was there. Maury Kanan was there. I don't remember if Sharat Yukaset was there or not. So we were on the call, right? Maureen and Sharat's having this call. And we were discussing different things. And I kind of got caught up in me. Had a me moment. There were about 3 times in the conversation where a question was asked. And nobody said anything. It was just silence. And you know me, focus on me, I like to deal with stuff head on, right? And the silence was irking me. So in that moment, I made it about me, right? However, the 3rd time it happened, I just chimed in. And immediately, Sharat Vic said, hey, I got to push back on that a little bit. And then he said his piece. And then I said, you know what? Your opinion is far more valid than mine because what we're talking about at the time, I don't have to actually perform. So my opinion really wasn't the end all be all, right? I had to humble myself and realize, you know what, right? You know what? Let me sit this one out. It's not really about me. So that's just an example that you don't always have to be in a rush to give counsel, right? You also, when you're in these moments, you can't make it about you. Just because you wanted it to be more direct and others needed time to contemplate and ponder or say, you know what, I really don't want to debate back and forth on this topic and they chose to set it out, then I can sit my humble self out too, right? I don't have to break the silence. I don't have to make it about how I want to go about handling things. The same thing when you're giving a counseling session. It's really not about you in that moment. It has nothing to do with you. Again, you always want to go into it prayed up with the Most High as the focus, knowing that this really is about him and it's not about your soul. The only soul that you're trying to save is yours from being disobedient and not giving the counsel, right? But you're trying to heal the other person. If you go into it and just be like, well, I gave the counsel, I gave my 2 cents, I told him like it is, Is that actual true counsel? It's good enough, right? It's actually not good enough. It's actually terrible. Again, you got to take yourself out of the situation. And it's not really about you getting heard. It's not about you puffing yourself up. It's not you trying to show how much you know. Fix your face. If y'all could have saw the face Maury Kanai made just now. So again, be mindful of your attitude, right? I know I don't play poker because I don't have a poker face. It just, stop it. You don't have to agree so quick, right? But again, be mindful of all those things when you're delivering counsel, because you could be saying one thing, they respond a certain way, and it's written all over your face. And now you've lost the trust in the situation.
That's why the phone counsels is better.
Right. Hey, you know, you don't want to text too much. A phone call might be better sometimes until you can get yourself together, right, to truly handle it. Say that part.
The facial expressions tell a lot.
The problem is, a lot of times we've trained ourselves to listen and speak the words the Most High gives us. So we have control over our mouths and our tongue. We can be gentle with our tongues, but our face don't have that same control. It's actually something you actually, I know myself, I have to practice. When I'm going to certain meetings, I know that I gotta, all right, get together, you gotta keep in a certain spot, right? You can't wing it when you go into a counseling session. Go ahead.
I find that what helps me in that circumstance is when someone is trying to explain something, it's not like I'm trying to avoid eye contact, but when they're talking, I say, okay, I want to hear you. And I kind of look away. If I'm looking at you, but I'm not looking directly at you, and I'm like, okay, and I'm listening. So that I won't react. So my feelings won't attack whatever they're saying. So it's like I'm looking at you, but I'm like, okay, I hear you. Keep going. I let them know that I'm listening, but I don't get the eye contact. When I look at you, that's when I start, my face start talking. I yield.
Now, when you're giving the counseling, how many of you who have had to give counsel came in there with a way to record what you spoke about? You went in there with a pad or a recorder with a way to record what was spoken about. I got one hand. That's something that people try to do, right? Explain to me why you do it, and I'm gonna come to your opinion for it next.
So some of the reasons why I do it is because, one is we hold each other accountable for what a person said. It also gives them a chance to reflect on because they may not at that time, they might have said it, but they really didn't, they might deny it sometime, or, they were saying it, but in the way that they said it, it might have went a certain way at the time. So I do it for record. I do it for a point of accountability, and I do it to bring things back to show them later how far they have come, if that was necessary.
What were you gonna say, sis?
Very similar accountability for myself and for that person to make sure that I'm giving the information that they need. And sometimes, like when people sit in front of you and they're going through something, it's almost like we call it like vomiting. They give you everything at once. So you want to document everything because you may only be able to deal with one small thing at a time and set goals and different things like that, so that they can track their own achievement. And that's it.
When I do it, I usually bring something to write with. It helps, like you say, that word vomit, that stream of consciousness where the person's just going and going and going. When they know you're trying to write it down, it also helps control the pace of a conversation. So they're just not going a million miles per hour, right? Or if you need somebody to repeat it, if it's just you and them, you didn't get it the first time, and you get that snarkiness, right? But if it's, hey, can you repeat it so I can write it down? Now you got something to kind of measure the conversation with. A little bit. You can say it. Why do you like to bring your notes? Stop it. Y'all better stop singing these songs.
The reason why I'll bring a notepad or something like that is just so that I usually don't be remembering things, so I write it down just to make sure I understand what they're telling me.
Right.
So, yeah. So, and then go back on the notes and just look at it and probably write solutions down along with what the issue is to probably say back, okay, this is what I got, and read it to them. So,
Right. It helps you be accountable because we want to follow through on what we say we're going to do in the counseling session. But if you counsel 3-4 people in a week, you're probably not going to remember everything that you're supposed to do off the top of your head. You got to be able to go back and say, oh, yeah, I got to do this by this date. I said I do this. I get this done, right? Because we forget. Like today on the way here, my oil light came. You need to add a quart of oil. Stop to the store, grab the quart of oil, right? And I'm like, hey, son, come with me. I'm trying to show him. This is where you put the oil, all this other stuff. Get in the car. He's like, Dad, you showed me that like 6 months ago. Like, I already knew that. You really need to get me out of the car in the heat so you can show me that, right? But he didn't say it that way. That's how I took it. That's how I took it. He was much more polite. You know, he didn't want to have to walk you the rest of the way. So, but again, to this, I still don't I remember doing it, but I can't remember when I did it. So stuff just runs together on you, right? So when you give counsel, it also denotes lets the person know that you're serious about it. Because the worst thing you can do is say, I'm going to do this by the end of the week, and then we come and you ain't followed through on none of it yet. That's just, you could just throw the whole counsel's lesson in the trash at that point. Because it's not going to be of any benefit at that point. They're probably not going to listen to what you say when you follow up 3 weeks later on something that you said. Unless that was the original timeline, that's fine. But if you said you get it done in 4 days and 3 weeks have gone by, you got to start all over again and build that rapport and that trust, right? Okay. That is my time. That's really all I had. I wanted to make sure that we participated versus me doing all the talking because I want stuff to stick. Because we are coming into a point where we are going to have these conversations, like the top of the month started with those tough conversations. We're going to have to be able to counsel each other. We're going to have to be able to, it may be somebody that you really weren't expecting to receive counsel from. Someone that doesn't usually give counsel. But hey, I was asked to help discuss this with you, something I've been through, something I've learned, something the Most High gave with me to share with you. And there's somebody in this room who that's the last thing they want to do is give counsel. But it's going to be the first thing he's going to ask you to do. And I told y'all that story. I did not want to be up here from the front because I didn't want to be counseling people. And 3 weeks in, I had to counsel people on stuff. So the time is coming. So I want us all to be prepared and stop it. Anyway, I'm gonna speak over him. That's for the room to hear. Nobody else needs to hear all that. But again, I don't claim to have the prophetic gift. However, this is going to be useful for somebody coming up, and it's going to be useful for somebody that didn't plan on that happening for them. Whether it be somebody in the room or somebody's listening to me online, you're going to find yourself in a situation. But the key thing to take away from is to make sure that you understand that it's not about you. You need to be able to listen and understand that it's not really something that's always in your nature. You don't always want to get involved, but when you have to, and you've got the witness that what you have to do is get involved, it's not about what you want anymore. You have to say something. Otherwise, it comes back on you. All right, so next week we'll do a pop quiz on the last 4 lessons. So if you have taken notes, go ahead and study them. If you haven't taken notes, go back and watch the last 4 videos and start taking notes because it will be pop quiz. I might even have some door prizes for some correct answers. We shall see. I'm just giving out bookmarks to everybody. Here, you give out some bookmarkers. You give out some bookmarkers, right? All right. Are there any questions online from anybody? Questions or comments?
I have a comment. I want to give all praises to the Most High, Moray, for how the Father used you to teach this lesson. It was really heartfelt. I feel your spirit, and I thank you for it. And I encourage you to continue to do do what the Most High leads you to do, and all praises to Him, all praises to the Ruach Hakodesh. Hallelujah. Amen.
Amen. Toda. Toda, Rabbi. Appreciate you. Anybody else? Stop. Oh, was there a hand back in the room? I'm sorry. Go ahead. We got one in the back.
Are you allowed to deny giving someone counsel? Like they come and ask you for it, but you don't want to give it to them because you know this person and you know they're not going to.
Nope. You can stop right there. Nope. That's. I was gonna let you finish. I was gonna ask you why you were going to deny them, but no, that's not a good enough reason. You're gonna have some bloody hands.
What I mean is, for example, I've given counsel to someone who's asked and they said, oh, that's actually really good advice. Or they'll say, oh, you're right. That is why I keep falling back into the same situation. But they don't change. And then exactly what I said happens. And then they're like, you're right. And I say, are you going to do something differently next time? Nope.
So your question is about counseling on the same matter or a different matter?
The same matter.
Oh, that's last week's slide. Oh yeah, they got yeah. At that point, you don't have to counsel somebody over and over about the same thing. But you can't say just because they asked me about B, I can't give it because they didn't listen about A. Right? But you don't have to give the counsel about the same topic over and over again. Right. So yeah, just because they hard-headed is not a reason to not hear them out on a new matter. But hard-headedness, like I said last week, you ain't about to ask me the same thing 3 times. Now listen. All right, anything else? I yield. All right, who's closing us out in prayer?
Barukatah Yahuwah Eloheinu Melech Halam. Father, we thank you for the moray that you have chosen to give us the word. We ask, Father, that you open our hearts, minds, and beings, that we may receive the word and be good counselors. We ask, Father, in the name of Yahushua Mashiach, that you bless everyone who heard it, that will also become a good counselor. We thank you, Father, for the blessings. We also thank you for the food that we're about to receive. And we thank you for the fellowship that we're going to have. And we thank you, Father, for letting all our Melachims be encamped over our vehicles as we go back home. We just lift you up on high, Most High Elohim. As we sleep tonight, let your word be in our dreams and let us meditate on that word all throughout the week, O Most High. And we give you all esteem, honor, and praise in the name of Yahushua Mashiach. Amen.
All right. So we're going to have a Hebrew class. Go ahead. Escape. Escape.